All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about something I think we all feel deep down, that constant push to be busy, and this almost primal resistance we have to just being quiet. Why is it so incredibly hard to just stop? And maybe more importantly, what are we missing out on because we can't?
I just love this question. It's a metaphor from spiritual director Ruth Haley Barton, and wow, does it nail that feeling of inner chaos. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where on the outside, everything looks okay, you're getting things done, but inside, your thoughts, your feelings, your worries, it's all just this cloudy, swirling mess.
And yeah, that's our starting point. This super common experience of having a life that's full to the brim on the outside, but feels totally chaotic and unsettled on the inside. So we just keep moving, almost hoping the sediment never, ever gets a chance to settle.
So what's actually hiding underneath all that hustle? Barton talks about her own life and realizing that buried beneath her jam-packed schedule were these huge, kind of scary questions. Like, who am I really if you strip away my job title and my to-do list? Can people actually change in a meaningful way? And what about those feelings we shove down? The little pockets of anger or sadness or that deep longing for, well, you don't even know what. It's easier to stay busy than to face all that.
Okay, so why do we do this? To really get to the bottom of our resistance to stillness, we're going to take a pretty surprising detour into the world of behavioral economics. Now, I know that sounds like a weird turn, but stick with me here, because it gives us this incredible diagnosis for our spiritual restlessness.
So there's this idea called prospect theory, and it basically says that when our brains are faced with a choice that involves any kind of risk, we are hardwired to want the sure thing. We will almost always choose a small, guaranteed win over a potential win, even if that potential win is way bigger. You know, think about it. Would you rather have a guaranteed $50 or a coin flip for 120? Most of us, without even thinking, take the 50. We are suckers for certainty.
And boom, this explains everything about our problem. Just look at this. On one side, you have busyness. It offers a small but certain gain. We know exactly what we're going to get. Distraction, that little buzz of feeling productive, a way to avoid tough feelings. But on the other side, stillness offers a massive but uncertain gain. We might find incredible peace, or we might just be bored. We might face some hard truths, or maybe, and this is the scary part, we find nothing. Faced with that risk, our brain instinctively defaults to the comfort of noise. Every time.
So we just keep choosing busyness over and over until we can't anymore. And this leads to what we could call the desperation point. That moment when all of our old tricks for managing the inner chaos just stop working.
This quote from Barton is just so honest it hurts. The path into stillness, for most of us, it doesn't start because we're so strong and spiritually disciplined. Nope. It starts when we've tried everything else to fix ourselves and we've come up empty. It starts with desperation.
And here's the crucial reframe. Desperation isn't a sign of failure. It's a catalyst. It's the one thing powerful enough to make us finally willing to take the risky bet, the bet on stillness, because all of our certain solutions have completely failed us.
But even when we hit that point of desperation, the invitation to just be still can feel, well, terrifying. Why is that? Because it often feels less like an invitation to find peace and more like an invitation into a big, empty, silent void.
And these are the specific fears that start bubbling up, aren't they? The fear of being bored out of your mind or suddenly feeling frantic and panicky. The fear of those emotions you've been stuffing down for years finally coming to the surface. And oh man, that nagging voice in your head screaming, "This is a waste of time, you're not getting anything done." But then there are the deeper fears. What if this works for other people, but it just doesn't work for me? And maybe the scariest one of all. What if I finally get quiet and there's nothing and no one there to meet me?
So if those are the fears standing guard, how in the world do we get past them? Well, the good news is there's a path. And to help us see it, we're going to look at an ancient story, the journey of the prophet Elijah, which kind of serves as a roadmap for this inner wilderness.
Elijah's story is a classic case of total and complete burnout. He's just had this huge career-defining victory, and he's exhausted, terrified for his life, and just empty. So he does what a lot of us do. He runs. He flees into the wilderness, hits his absolute breaking point, and that's where this journey into real stillness begins. So just look at how this plays out. He starts at rock bottom in total despair. He travels for 40 days to this sacred mountain. And then he waits. He waits through this incredible violent chaos, a wind so strong it shatters rocks, an earthquake, a raging fire. But the text is very clear. God wasn't in the wind, or the earthquake, or the fire.
The encounter happens after all the noise in what the original language calls a sound of sheer silence.
So how do we start our own journey? Thankfully, we don't need an epic 40-day trek. This slide gives us some really simple, practical first steps from Barton's work. It's about finding a quiet corner, starting small, seriously just 10 or 15 minutes, getting your body settled and comfortable, and then having a simple little phrase, like "here I am," to gently use as an anchor when your mind inevitably starts to go a million miles an hour. It's all about making it doable.
All right, so let's say we do it. We face our fears, we start the practice. What's the payoff? What actually happens when we push through all that inner noise and finally start to hear that sound of sheer silence?
That wind, that earthquake, and that fire from Elijah's story, they're not just weather. They are a perfect metaphor for the inner storm that kicks up when we finally stop running. All our fears, our defenses, our carefully constructed pretenses start to fall away, and it can feel just as chaotic.
And pushing through that storm leads to this incredible shift. On the left, you see the false self. That's the self we build to get by in the world. It's all about performance, proving our worth, managing our image. It's anxious and controlling. But in the silence, what begins to emerge is the true self. And look at that description. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's not defensive. It's described as smaller, softer, and ultimately so much freer.
This quote from Thomas Merton just gets to the heart of it. The goal isn't to get quiet so we can think better thoughts. The point is to move beyond thought, beyond words, into a state of just being, a state of communion.
And this, right here, might be the most radical idea of them all. In a world that screams about productivity and achievement, the goal in this practice is to achieve exactly one thing: absolutely nothing. The only point is to let go of all the striving and just be present.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Remember that jar of shaken river water? This is the beautiful result of the whole journey. In the stillness, all that swirling sediment of our inner lives, the fears, the anxieties, the worries, it's finally allowed to settle. And for maybe the first time, the water becomes clear. We can actually see.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. If you were brave enough to sit through the wind and the earthquake and the fire of your own inner world, and you finally found that quiet place, what do you think you would hear in this sheer silence?